Ramon, don't forget why companies are hiring you. And I knew it, but it just unlocked it when he said it that direct. Ramon, they're not hiring a speaker. When they hire you, they see something in you. Doesn't mean Kurt, there's no room for Kurt. Doesn't mean that. It just means on that day, that time, they saw something in Ramon. So that's one. Number two, I was at an event once and I got some pushback. Hey, Ramon, how you're presenting yourself, not quite a fit with the audience. They said it in a good way. Wasn't a critique. I didn't take it that way. It was said in love. But I realized I'm just not the right fit for them. That's okay. Let me call anybody else. So when I find the right audience who wants the full fire of Ramon, speaking too fast, humor and all, but going to the audience, that's awesome.
Welcome to Unlocking Moves. We want to dive into those key pivotal moments and decision points that really change the lives of successful entrepreneurs and leaders. And I want to hear stories because I think we learn the most from stories. But I want to hear not just their glory stories. I want to hear the gory stories because, as I like to say, the bigger the shit show, the bigger the lesson. And I've got a real treat for you today because I've got Ramon Ray on with me. And I want to tell you, be prepared to be inspired. But Ramon, before we get going, I got to do like I do all my guests and hit you up with an off-the-wall question or comment to really keep you on your toes, keep my audience on their toes. All right, let's go. I'm going to take you back to your childhood. My crack research team uncovered quite a few articles about, or maybe not quite a few, but an article about your childhood and your upbringing. And it seemed like you really wanted to be the guy that learned how everything worked, how and why everything worked. Specifically, it said that you tore apart or maybe pulled apart your talking teddy bear to see how it worked.
You
also built a transistor radio or radio from Radio Shack, and it also said that you lit a wall of your childhood home on fire.
I did.
So that's my question. Tell me what the hell happened there, and don't leave out any details. I want to hear the gory story.
Well, the gory story is that I was playing in the basement. Regarding the last point, I can go to all 3 points. But the gory part is that I was playing in the basement, going back to, I guess, tinkering. We're all different. God's made us all different, obviously. And I was just, in the basement of the house I was residing in, all kind of paint thinners and spray stuff, cans, this, old motors, just a basement of a person's dream who loves to tinker. And so I don't know why I did it, but I sprayed something against the wall. Kurt, I can't tell you why. I just maybe wanted to see, is it really flammable? It says it is, but what does that mean? Like, how flammable? Wasn't trying to burn the house down, but sprayed that sucker against the wall, lit it. Ooh, thankfully, it wasn't big enough. I think it either fizzled out, because I don't recall hitting anything, so it must have just fizzled out. Thankfully, I think it was a brick wall in the basement, but what if it was something different? So that's my gory story of almost burning down. It could have been bad. That's a basement. Fire only goes up. So
that's awesome.
That's my story.
Well, first of all, that's why they say curiosity killed the cat. And second of all, how old were you when you tried to burn your house down?
To my shame, I was an older person. I was 14, 15, maybe, something like that. I wish I could say I was a little kid, but I wasn't.
Well, when I was a little boy, I was the youngest of 4. And one day, me and my 2 older brothers decided to go underneath our house and explore. And we didn't have a flashlight, so we decided to light a torch. So they let me, the 4-year-old, carry the torch. I think I almost lit that puppy on fire.
Oh, that's funny. You and I are both mini pyrotechnics or whatever they call people like that. But good.
I love fire, baby. I love fire.
That's funny.
All right. As you can tell, my guest today is Ramon Ray. He is the publisher of zoneofgenius.com. Previously, he was famously fired from the United Nations. He also testified before Congress. Not sure if those are related or not, but maybe we'll find out. He also founded Smart Hustle Media, and he's a huge fan of small business. And I got to tell you, you're going to find out later why, but he is a force of nature. I can't wait to dive in with Ramon Ray. Welcome to Unlocking Moves.
Hey, Kurt, thanks for having me here. And it's great to be here with your audience. I love the name Unlocking Moves, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun and hopefully maybe just a little bit of information we'll share with your audience and they'll enjoy it. So really, I'm grateful to you for seeing value in me to share with your audience today. Thank you.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Hey, I want to start off with the zone of genius. So I did a little research, and the term is the intersection between your unique talents, passions, and strengths. I know zoneofgenius.com goes a lot deeper. Tell me a little bit about zoneofgenius.com.
Sure, and I do want to give credit to, I think, two colleagues you may know, Laura, I forgot her name, and Gay Hendricks, I believe. They have two books, IP on, a lot of Zone of Genius. So I want to give them honor and credit, whatever, it is, but two books on that. Go buy their books. But the genesis of it is, one, technically, Kurt, I like domain names and to build media companies on it. As you may know, I've purchased several domains, built media companies on it, and sold blogs 3 times. So I have a track record in doing that. A friend of mine was playing the bass guitar in church once. And as I recall, this was only a few years ago, I kind of looked at him and I'm like, dang, he's in his zone of genius. I mean, it sounds corny, but that is how I felt. He's a guy who's not academically astute. He'll admit that himself. His name is Joel. Hey, Joel. But he was on the bass effortlessly, just like he was drinking water, playing that. And he sings, he knows guitar and bass. And something clicked. Maybe it was from a previous conversation with friends of mine, but I was like, that's a perfect example of someone who's in their flow. On the spot, as I recall, looked up the domain, zoneofgenius.com was available. I bought it and held it because I still was running smarthustle.com. And lo and behold, as I sold Smart Hustle, I'm like, you know what? I need a place to live. We all have some people like LinkedIn me. I wanted a thing. And so today my thing is publisher of zoneofgenius.com, which is growing.
I love it. I love it. Well, tell me a little bit more about what it does, what you guys do. And the follow-up is going to be, of course, what is your zone of genius?
I love it. Yeah. So what we do is really, it's a media company. We're growing. So I'm not trying to be, we're not, Huffington Post here, but we're growing. So we have a podcast, we have website and more. And the purpose of what we do is to help small businesses live life fulfilled. And what does that mean? Our peers in the space, Inc.com, entrepreneur.com, we're within that wavelength. We provide insights from taxes to leadership to mindset and more. That's the place you can come and get a potpourri dish of information to help your small business grow. Is that helpful?
It is, absolutely. So
Cool.
if I'm a small business owner or an entrepreneur, I want to dive into whatever challenges I'm facing, I can go to zoneofgenius.com and I can find all kinds of resources.
That's right. By now, you should probably find at least one, if not several articles on XYZ. How do I hire? How do I fire? How do I balance my accounts? What software should I use? And/or mindset. Should I not be in business? We touch on those kind of things too. The mindset of entrepreneurship, not just the speeds and feeds. Both are equally important.
Well, I'm not going to let you go on that one. Let's go back to mindsets, because the mindset of entrepreneur is A, batshit crazy. B, is got to be tough and gritty and able to repeatedly get up off the ground. Yeah. Tell me about mindset as it relates to what you're doing.
Yeah, I have never served in our military or any military, but having studied it, read a lot, YouTube books, it's a passion of mine. It's my understanding that the best soldier just has that attitude. We have to keep moving on. It's a gory and, movies glorify it, but we have to keep moving. And so my point is about the mindset of entrepreneurs. I know, Kurt, is there's no magic to it. It's a few fundamental things. Marie Forleo, I have her book somewhere around here. She talks about everything is figure outable. Do you have the hustle and grit to keep going? My line of credit was denied. My employee quit. This didn't work out. I came to the office and had a major leak. Customer order didn't come through. I was counting on it. Keep going. And some of the smart, hence why I started Smart Hustle, that intuitive, not just the hard work, not just banging your head against the wall, but then third, do it smartly, build good relationships. And my point being, Kurt, those are some of the simple ingredients. Your customers, of course, find the right customer, but you get a few of those things right, keep doing at it, you may just have a thriving business. So that's what I find.
Man, that's so important. The grit and the hustle and the grind, those are the most important things for an entrepreneur. The idea is great. Obviously, you need capital to weather whatever storms you might be thrown at. You're going to have to build a team and have some talent, but it all starts with the grit of the entrepreneur. I love that.
Right. Thank you.
That.
Yeah.
Well, what's your zone of genius besides the gift of gab and being able to pull all these disparate parts together?
I'm at the age of 51, Kurt, I'm honing more and more that if I had to say one thing I do well, and I'd love to know what your input you can pour into me maybe and help me even say this better, but is I call it edutainment. Maybe that's more the technical thing. That's not so much the proper term, but as far as how I make my living, I believe it's a gift. I believe it's a gift where in many great speakers and around me, but I believe I have a special innate ability to be in the crowd, be on the spot. It's a dose of humor. I am not a comedian, but the cousin of improv, quick on one's feet, reading the room. Hey, Ramon, we need you to speak in the earpiece. This has happened. 10 more minutes, delay. You can't just stutter. You can't, hey, everybody, we got a delay. No, the audience should never know it. So I believe that's one zone of genius I have. And related, being relatable. I love sales, not sales maybe in the proper sense. People listening to you, maybe you, Kurt, are better at me than sales. But I believe when I say sales, it's relationship. Hey, Kurt, you said you wanted to buy the chapstick. Before we even sell it to you, man, just love to know why you wanted to buy it. Let's just talk. So if that's helpful, those two things, relationships, but edutainment is what I love best.
I love it. And it seems like you're in the natural spot for what you're doing.
Thank
for
you.
all of that. And I gotta give you a few props. So I mentioned my research team. I also reached out to one of our mutual friends, Lauren Feldman, for some dirt. I asked him for dirt on Ramon. And here's what he says. He says, and I quote, Ramon he's a true force of nature. I've always been impressed with his high energy, he's warm, his personality. Then he says, he's got a remarkable ability to break through at big corporations, and he earns their trust. And a big part of your success is your ability to build rapport. Then he says he's always willing to reach out and help others and bring them along. Certainly, you've done that with him. So kudos to Ramon Ray, the personality and the person. I love it.
I've never been on a podcast where that is quite like this. That is so special. And shout out, if I may, back, Lauren Feldman. I'm going to make sure you hear this. I appreciate you, brother. 21 Hats podcast. I tout his podcast over my own. So, and I know he's a mutual friend of ours. So, brother, I love you, Lauren Feldman. Thank you for those kind words. Kurt, thanks to you and your team for bringing us out. That was beautiful. Thank you.
You know, a part of this show is uncovering those unlocking moves. And oftentimes it's a person that was part of that. And I like to shout out that person because sometimes we don't know who we touched 10, 20, 30 years ago and that we had the impact that we had. So there you go, Lauren Feldman.
Appreciate that. You made my day, man. You really did. Almost ready to cry, but I'm not going to.
We're going to cut this into a short. It's going to be all over Instagram. We'll be seen by tens, if not dozens of people. Ramon.
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. So here's the next question. So you've got a really interesting background. I don't know. You've built a very successful business or businesses. I'm willing to bet that you didn't graduate from New York Institute of Technology and immediately become a small business advocate. Tell me a little bit about your story.
Sure. Yeah. Since you mentioned that, I'll start there-ish. Some people are really good at facts and numbers and dates and times. Not me. But bottom line is, when I graduated, when I was entering college, that did start. I applied to work at the United Nations General Assembly. You can Google it. People may know that's where the delegates meet from about September-ish, I think it is, September, because it coincides with the tennis thingamajiggy chase and, the Serena Williams, I should know, but the big tennis shindig in Queens, New York. So
the U.S. Open is what he's talking about.
Thank you. I'm the kind of guy, Kurt, I'd be like, you get into that little thing, turn your engine, it goes vroom, vroom, and Ramon, you mean a car? Yeah, that. So you coincide with the U.S. Open. So September to December, the United Nations has a General Assembly where heads of state come, all the heads of state. For years, they've done it. So anybody can apply, and you can apply to do kind of temporary help. Bottom line is I applied there between the ages of 19, 20, something like that. Kind of, I started college a bit late, took some time off, gap year, they call it. So point is, I was at the United Nations. While there, Kurt, I'm blessed to say that that was the CompuServe, Prodigy, AOL, Microsoft front page, that era of tech, where computers in offices, many may not have been networked. You go to Staples and get a thumb drive where those were precious. I see your nods, what I'm talking about. So there, though, since I had this techie background, I'm a guy who burned his house almost down, I could experiment and play on their dime. Oh, let's network computers. Let's get a router, get a hub, LAN cables. Let's put our first modem in. Let's call the telephone company, get an ISDN line. Ooh. So cutting to the chase, that gave me the tech foundation. That little office gave me the tech foundation, had permission to have some side hustles. And the short of it, and you can tell me how you want to go here, but is that permission was revoked. There was a guy in the office, ornery, didn't like me, variety of reasons, and that permission was revoked. And this is years later. And so eventually my contract was not renewed, but to say I was fired just sounds cooler, Kurt. It just sounds much better.
Absolutely.
Contract wasn't renewed. And while there then, and thanks for helping me, let me jump around a bit, but while there, now going back, I had some side hustles. I had started smallbiztechnology.com in April 1999. You can reverse domain, look that up. I believe that's the date, April 1999. And that gave me, I leveraged my tech love with my own skills, making some side income, going to small businesses in Midtown Manhattan, Grand Central area. Hey, can I help your computer? Can I upgrade this for me? So that started. I can go on for a few more points if you like.
Yeah,
Should I?
sure. Let's
Okay,
do it.
good. I want to make sure the timing.
Well, hey,
So
hey, before we
please.
go further, I do want to challenge you. The fact that you almost set your house on fire does not make you a techie, by the way.
Well, the desire to figure things out and experiment, that side
All
of the
right,
brain.
fair enough. We're in experimentation. We got it.
Yes, sir. And so at the United Nations, had my side hustle, experimenting with tech, because small office, so I could do a lot of things, setting the stage there. I started a blog, doing content on small business, ironically. I'm not sure why that came into my head, but then doing that for a while, jumping further ahead, somehow Black Enterprise got wind of me. And I recall the carbon copies. I got an email, call, letter in the mail. Maybe I network with somebody. Hey, Ramon, can you write an article? Similar time-ish, Inc.com, Inc. magazine more so then, right? It wasn't
Wow.
so much Inc.com. They got in touch, Ramon. And I remember, Kurt, Ramon, can you do an article for us? We'll pay you $1 per word. And I'm like, that just sounds cheap. Like, who's going to do anything for $1? And then they said, can you do 2,000 words, 3,000 words, 4,000? That gave me the taste, the understanding, Kurt, of this new world of content monetization. I don't think it was called that there. It was called freelance writing, whatever they called it. So that was that. I'll come to an end here. And then speaking was a very similar thing, Kurt. Good friend of mine, her name is Jennifer Shaheen, the technology therapist. You can look her up, tell her I said hi. And she's like, Ramon, I'm speaking at SCORE, the free government service. And can you speak for me? Free gig. But that gave me a taste of speaking, standing in a room. Somebody saw me like a Kurt. Hey, Ramon, what's your fee? My fee? So that's pretty much the history of that.
$1 per word.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
If you're just joining us on Unlocking Moves, today's episode is brought to you as usual by Hire Better, the strategic talent partner for growth-minded entrepreneurs everywhere.
And then today, moving fast forwarding, 20 something, 25 something years, Ramon Ray is a speaker, content person, works with brands and monitors influencer marketing. So that's what I do.
I love it. Well, I'm going to get into your Unlocking Move here in a bit, but I do like that name. What was her name? Shaheen?
Jennifer Shaheen. That's right.
Jennifer
Technology
Shaheen.
Therapist.
I got to tell you that what was her nickname?
A technology therapist. It's trademark, technology therapist.
It would sound a lot better if it was a technology queen. Jennifer Lasheen, the technology queen. I don't know.
I like that.
All right. So, hey, let's talk a little bit more about this concept of zone of genius. One of my gifts is I'm a connector. Okay. I also know that you're very big on personal connections, which is some of the rapport that we talked about earlier. Tell me a little bit more about your mindset around human connections and how that's affected or helped you in your career.
Absolutely. Again, how it is, why it is, I don't know. I think some things are genetic. The person who's quiet, you can't learn it. The person who's talkative, I think we're born with some things. But I love people, Kurt. In the airport, and I cry very easily too, in the airport, seeing the lady who maybe most people don't see her, not that I'm anything, but most of us wouldn't. Hey, ma'am, thank you so much for cleaning that trash as I'm going out the bathroom. Thank you, sir, for wiping the counter. I just love making him or her feel good. Or in the seat, if you're with me in the airplane, Kurt, hey, my name is Ramon. I'm going to Texas because of XYZ. What brings you there? You're either going to say, hey, and I'll read that. You want to sleep or read your book? No problem. But you may say, oh, I'm doing XYZ, blah, blah, blah. I have a new friend. Maybe we don't do business, maybe we do, but I met a new person. So if that helps, I love people, love making people feel good, loving people laugh with me, tell a little joke. Oh, story, Kurt. Brief, if I may. I'm on a plane. Flight attendant kneels next to me, says, Ramon, the guy in B1 wants to buy you a meal. No joke, Kurt, in a little box. I'm like, who is this? Why? I'm like, as if it's prison, you can't accept nothing, but I'm like, no, we're not in prison. I'm like, maybe he wants a favor. I just negative thoughts went through my head, but she said, just accept it. So I accepted it. Lo and behold, Kurt, you know what he said? Like at the moments I just told you, he said, Ramon, you made me laugh before we got on a plane. And I just wanted to say, thanks. So back to you, Kurt. I hope all that jumble helps to understand just Ramon a bit, this human connection. I just like it, man.
I love it. I will tell you that I love people too. And I like to, it depends on the state of mind, but I also like to notice the small things like that and say kind things to people. I don't do it all the time, to be candid. Sure. But I also find that I'm an introvert. I love the microphone in my hands. I love this conversation right here. Some people think, Kurt's the life of the party, whatever. but I get really, really, really tired of being around too many people. So oftentimes when I'm on the plane, I'm the guy that's, either working or sleeping or whatever. But I do enjoy it because I made some great human connections with folks like Ramon Ray on the plane.
Absolutely. And Kurt, to that point, it's ironic because I'm not a party animal. And I think somebody gave me a word. There's one of those words, you're a aggressive introvert or something. Like I can, as you know, do the stage. I can say hi. But here's a big event. We're at South by Southwest, right? Some big event. Hey, Ramon, we got free drinks, dude. Come on over. I'll sit in my bed, scroll on my phone with my laptop. If my family's not with me, put on some stupid TV. I like cable news. That's what I do. So I'm not the guy on that. And when the event's over and I've served people, I have no problem being alone, either working or just sitting in my hotel room doing nothing.
I like it. Well, we got a new best show for you. The Unlocking Moves podcast should be on your playlist all the time.
I love it. And I'll bring sponsors to it. Can you live with, give me 3%, 5%, 10%, and I'll give you 90. Does that work?
Hey man, that's perfect. That's perfect. What's 3% of nothing? I'm not really sure. I got to do some math on that.
Let's do it.
This is a great opportunity to remind everybody to go like and subscribe and give me a 5-star review for Unlocking Moves and Ramon's podcast, which is called
The Rundown with Ramon on zoneofgenius.com. The Rundown with Ramon.
The Rundown with Ramon. I listened to a little bit of it. The energy you bring to that thing is off the charts. I was hoping I could keep up today.
You're doing great.
All right, perfect. Well, hey, let's dive into another topic that I know is of interest to you, and that is personal branding. Mm-hmm. I know you actually wrote a book called The Celebrity CEO, if I remember correctly. I haven't read it yet. I see it on your over your right shoulder there. I do need to read it. Tell me a little bit about that and maybe your perspective on personal branding, because you've done a great job of it.
Thank you. Yeah, people keep asking me, Kurt, I think I wrote that in 2019, I believe it was. People keep asking, Ramon, how are you getting so well known? In my space, not like President here or President Dad or Michael Jackson, Prince, or the famous person of the day. Nationally, no. But Ramon, in the small business space, especially large brands, you're pretty well known. SCORE and ASBDC and USPTO, and you hang in these oases. And so I wrote a book about it, just how any small business owner can be well known in their market. Maybe it's well known in the entrepreneurship space in Texas, well known in the small business space of nursing homes nationally, depends. So bottom line, what's in the book is really the aspect of how to build your personal brand, how to be the celebrity in your industry, how to leverage the power of social media to keep posting content. There's more, but it's as simple as that. Frequency. People say, Ramon, I always see you. You don't really always see me, but in the sphere you're in, because you clicked entrepreneurship, small business, in my sphere, you're going to see Ramon show up. So Celebrity CEO really encourages people, use video, use social media, do an event, get a book, do a podcast, go live. All the things that many of us do, you do that consistently and stay focused on a particular market, you will be the celebrity CEO of that space. You do it often enough.
I love it. First of all, show me the book, and then I got a comment. All right, The Celebrity CEO, go check it out, Ramon Ray. So here's my comment, and I want to get your perspective on this.
Please.
So, as you know, I've been doing a lot of podcasting, and I wrote a book myself, and I've got some things out there, and people make same comments about me. I'm seeing you everywhere. It's great. And so first of all, I hope they're not tired of seeing me yet, right? But that's beside the point. My point is, I got out of my comfort zone during COVID, where I started doing roundtables, I started doing LinkedIn Lives, and I just started putting myself out there. And it takes a lot of nerve to get yourself out there. It's like naming your child. You're out there, and people are going to make fun of you perhaps, but it's been great. And I just started doing it. I didn't have a strategy, and kind of still. People are like, how are you monetizing this? I have no freaking idea. I love the content. People love I'm trying to help people and inspire people.
That's right.
And so that's what I would suggest to folks if they want to be a celebrity CEO, is just start doing things that align with them as a human being and perhaps with their personal brand. And then, you're going to begin creating content, and it will go from there. It'll be a beast of its own. Is that fair? What do you say to that?
Absolutely. Just get out there, Kurt. You're right. Even if you don't like to do it, it's messy at first, didn't come out right at first. You keep doing it, Kurt. You're gonna look at Kurt and I and be on episode X. I recently started a show on USA Today called The Rundown with Ramon Show. Kurt, day one, I had like one video in my Dropbox folder. I'm on episode 114. Go figure.
That's
you just got to do it.
That's awesome. I appreciate that, Ramon. Hey, this is a nice segue perhaps into my book. It's called Who's Your Mike?
Who's Your Mike? Who's Your Mike by Kurt Wilkin. Who's Your Mike?
There you go, baby. And Mike is a title character. He's your good friend, your good buddy that started with you and did all the operational, administrative, back office things that you hated to do and were probably sucked at. And as you grew, he became a full-time employee, maybe became your accountant, then your controller, then your CFO. And you look up 5 years later and you're doing 10 million in revenue and Mike's in over his head. He's trying to negotiate, $20 million line of credit with the bank, whatever. He's swirling and he doesn't know how to tell you. Yes. But the question is, who's your Mike? Every entrepreneur either has a Mike, has had, or will have a Mike. So that's the first title character. I have other characters. Who is your favorite character from Who's Your Mike?
Yeah, I think one of them, and that's the one we talked about earlier. Is that correct? That's that correct, Mike? Can I dive into? Kurt, can I dive into that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Whichever one you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Side Hustle Sam?
Yes, exactly. Side Hustle Sam. So the reason I love it is because, there's so many characters. And again, congratulations. Who's Your Mike? Everybody, please go out and check that out and get that. Send me a screenshot of it, by the way. If you get Who's Your Mike by Kurt Wilkin, send me a screenshot of it and I'll say thanks. Whatever. So please
Perfect.
do that.
You can't beat that offer, ladies and gentlemen.
And in fact, if you buy two, you can buy 2 for 2. So Who's Your Mike? But Side Hustle Sam, because as we talked offline, Kurt, that's my journey. I have no problem with, there's very few of us who will say, hey, Kurt, I have an idea for, again, I have chapstick on my desk. One day I held up something so much, they said, Ramon, are you trying to subtly sell it? I'm like, no, I just grabbed it from my desk. But they were a little, you don't have an affiliate program, do you? Anyways, you got chapstick and I go to Kurt and say, hey, Kurt, I need 10 million to grow it. Rarely does that happen. Rarely. It does happen. There's people like that. And I'm sure you play in that space to some degree, Kurt. But most of us, we're working a business. We have an idea. Hey, I'm with my daughter. I feel I could do the water bottle different. Damon John says few things are original and brand new. Few, rarely. Elon Musk Tesla was not the first electric car out there. It wasn't. But what do we do to improve on existing things out there? That's what I'm guessing 99% of it is. So you're in a business, you're working, you got your idea. You know what? I'm going to leave work at 5:30 every day, serve my business, serve the full-time I'm at. And for 4 hours, I'm going to do design. 4 hours, I'm going to sell. 4 hours, I'm going to do something else that I really love to do or make side income. You grow it. Maybe you realize, hey, listen, this is our 3rd month of having a consistent client. Or we got 4 big clients. Let's take the risk, the, what do you call it? Like the, not safe risk, Kurt, but like the thoughtful risk, not gambling like crazy. You know what I'm trying to say? Let's take the thoughtful risk. Maybe we resign. Maybe we go on partial time. Maybe our employer becomes our first client. Many ways to do that. So I like that Side Hustle Sam because I believe that resonates with me. You don't have to go too big too fast. You don't have to, betray, as it were, your family and not take care of them. And you can ease into it.
I love it. I like Side Hustle Sam as well. And here's why I felt like it was important to talk about in the book, because oftentimes as entrepreneurs, and we start our own business, we need employees around us who have the ability to wear 21 hats, as Lauren Feldman would say.
Let's go.
And ding, ding. I think I got bonus credit for that. But they have to be able to do a lot of different things. Those are generalists and they're working their ass off for you. They're passionate about whatever you're doing. And if they're really good, they're probably going to want to, they're entrepreneurial themselves. So they probably want to have their own business someday. And so almost by definition, there's going to be some crossroads where they're going to have to make a decision. And oftentimes they have side hustles. So my encouragement to you as an employer is uncover those and build a rapport with your employees so they feel safe to talk to you about it, and then work with them. As long as they're giving you full time, during your normal work day or whatever, then maybe you can support them on the back end and maybe be an investor or a client for them going forward. It's a good, all depends on your relationship and your rapport with that employee.
That's right. And you have someone like that, Kurt. I don't know if you agree, but I think that it's going to be hard to keep him. You have a Kurt works for me. I work for him, and I have a passion, a dream. One of two things. He can do it on a slide. Know he'll leave eventually. Say, Kurt, I know you're going to go. Could you work with me? 6 months, you think you'd be gone a year? Let me support you. Can we find somebody else? And, or as you said, Kurt, please leave and let us be your first client. So I like that. Embrace the journey, because everybody has something inside them, and you can choose to squash it or help birth it.
I love what you just said. You can choose to squash it or help birth it. A lot of folks have maybe an ego issue or whatever, and they decide to terminate the employee when they find out about the side hustle, or they don't have the relationship where the employee feels safe to come to them. And you're going to lose a great employee over that, and perhaps a great investment because guys are going. So, Ramon, we're at the part of the show where I want to uncover your unlocking move. What was a key decision point or pivotal moment that really changed the trajectory of your career or your life?
Sure. One definitely was, of course, being fired from the United Nations. That was something that wasn't my choosing, but it was in a way my choosing because I didn't stop my side hustle as requested. So I'm glad in hindsight that it happened. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't be the Ramon I am today. I don't think I'd probably still be at the United Nations, making good money and limping along, trying to be this version of Ramon, not in fullness. So that's one. Something, Kurt, that happened more recently to me. I don't know the date, but it's within the last few months, few years, and it's honed in on as me being comfortable being Ramon and or realizing who I am. That I think was one thing I'm realizing, Kurt, that has happened to me in recent days is that Seth Godin, he's kind of like my mentor. I like him, a friend of mine, but I can't be him. I do look at Steve Harvey and Kevin Hart. I want to be the Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart of small business. I admire them. Look what they're doing. Tyler Perry. What I'm trying to get to is that the unlocking moves is let me hone in on what I do well. Nope, not a math aficionado. Nope, I'm not the scaling guru, even though, I can wear hats, many hats, Lauren Feldman, 21 hats. But honing into Ramon Ray as an edutainer in one slice of what I do, big slice, and rocking that for all it is. If you want, hey, everybody, my name is Brene Brown. I will teach you to unlock your mind. Not me. You want a comedian? Not me. But I'm feeling comfortable owning and being Ramon Ray. That make any sense, Kurt?
It does make sense. I want to ask you why or how did that come about? I want to come back to the other point in a second too, but go ahead and like, what was the key awareness where you got this knowledge?
A few things I think combined, and I don't know if I've talked about this quite like this before, so it may not come out all perfect as I want it, but a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, Alfred Edmond Jr., he's Senior Vice President of Black Enterprise, Alfred Edmond Jr. We're in a similar space. He's a bit older than me. He told me that point blank. He said, Ramon, we were sitting one day. He said, Ramon, don't forget why companies are hiring you. And I knew it, but it just unlocked it when he said it that direct. Ramon, they're not hiring a speaker. When they hire you, they see something in you. Doesn't mean Kurt, there's no room for Kurt. Doesn't mean that. It just means on that day, that time, they saw something in Ramon. So that's one. Number two, I was at an event once and kind of I got some pushback. Hey, Ramon, how you're presenting yourself, not quite a fit with the audience. They said it in a good way, wasn't a critique. I didn't take it that way. It was said in love. But I realized I'm just not the right fit for them. That's okay. Let me call anybody else. So when I find the right audience who wants the full fire of Ramon, speaking too fast, humor and all when going to the audience, that's my sweet spot. So
let's go, man.
Those things help me.
I love it. Being yourself is so key to all this, whether it's you're on a stage or whether you're doing life in any other way. Being yourself is where it's at. And so you uncovered the gift is just to be yourself.
Yes.
And not everybody's going to like that, Ramon, but that's okay. I love it. I love it. I want to come back to your other point about the United Nations, because you mentioned that you might still be there if you were, 25 years later or whatever. And I got to tell you, I have a lot of conversations with people in transition. They're been in their career 20, 25, 30 years. And now they're either sold their company or they've been transitioned of their own, not of their own accord or whatever. And they're trying to decide, okay, what do I do next? And I always encourage them to find, maybe it's the zone of genius. Find your passions, find where your passions and maybe an economic model can connect, and don't be saddled by what you've been doing in the past. Yes. And a lot of people take that United Nations job and they stay in it and they're 25 years later and they're miserable. And then they finally figured out how to be their own zone of genius. So I would encourage everybody out there to explore those passions, even while you're gainfully employed. It doesn't mean you need to quit. It just means that maybe that passionate you is hidden underneath there somewhere, and let's find it.
That's right. Absolutely. 100%.
That's going to lead me to my listener's advocate question. Okay. So I like to consider myself the listener's advocate. If I've got Ramon Ray here one-on-one, what do I want Kurt to ask him? And what I came up with was zone of genius. Tell me your top 3 tips for me to uncover my own zone of genius.
What do you love doing? That's one. What do you absolutely love doing? Number 2, it's not the same. What do you do very, very well? To be clear, you might love singing, but everybody, arguably, you know it too, you don't do it well. So what do you love doing? What do you do very, very well? And then third, I could go on a few, but just three, how does that mix jive with what other people say, if that makes sense? And that's a sweet spot. Example, you make pie, you love making pie, and everybody in the dimly lit, leaking church basement where you're at is having fun here saying, Kurt, you make the best. Bring us some of that pie, or whatever example you want to give, just having fun. You found your zone of genius, or one of them. So that's what I would say. Those three things come together. Woo, you're cooking with something.
I love it. So what do you love doing? What are you good at doing? And what do other people say you're good at doing, or what your strengths are? I love it.
That's right. That's right.
Let's go. Take that.
Was that a question for me, or that was reaffirming what I said? Because I can answer that too.
I was reaffirming what
you
okay. said. Let's go. All right, perfect. Okay, now I've got a trick question for you. Okay. And the question is, tell me one question that you're never asked, and either you're secretly glad that they don't ask you, or you kind of wish they'd ask you.
Wow, that's interesting. I can take this several different ways. Why don't I'm going to say it a few ways, and I'll turn it back to you to pick.
Maybe. Let's go.
Something about marriage, my wife, 30 years, something like that. Something about the relationship with my son. Never talked about it. I don't even know why I'm saying it. I probably don't wish you would say it, but I'm going for it.
Okay. All right, perfect. Which one do you want to talk about?
You were supposed to pick. My wife. I'll go there in our marriage. So
let's do it.
Yeah. So to those who are not happily married, to those who've had broken relationships, I respect you. Kurt asked me about mine. Been married 30 years. My wife's name is Ronnie. And I think the one nugget I would share, and thank you for asking a question, it's totally different than business, but is the choice we've made to be married. I can be a total terrible husband at times. And I'm sure she would admit that she's not the perfect person either. But it's interesting, Kurt, I think, as I think about a relationship, we've chosen to say, you know what? I'm pissed off at you. You're pissed off at me. Okay, it's been like 4 months now. We haven't talked to each other. Joking on the 4 months. Let's choose. Let's sit down. Let's take a walk. Let's go see a movie. Let's kiss and make up. Let's choose to get back because we're not breaking up. So is that helpful? That choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, marriage is incredibly challenging. Two people with their own unique skill sets and strengths and backgrounds and all that coming together. And you're making a choice to stay married and to work on that marriage. That's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Choice is everything.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask you about the testifying before Congress, and if you had any cool things to say about that, because as we researched, we found a quote from the committee that says, "No one ever calls us awesome around here, and you're making a lot of friends. So you must have used your gift of gab to become friends with the congressman." I'm just curious, how the hell did you get pulled into that, and how was the experience?
Yeah, is your research team for hire? Like, can I white label them, and can I can I just outsource them to all the agencies and people? Can I do that? Can we talk about that offline? 10,000 an hour, maybe 5,000 an hour. You can.
I was thinking $1 a word, but yeah, sure, we'll do.
Kudos to them. I love this interview. So as I recall, I was in DC at the time, or somehow I was connected to the Congress office to interview them. Because again, as you know, that's one thing I love doing, whether it's Smart Hustle, Small Biz Technology, Small Business Summit, my 3 previous businesses, and now Zone of Genius. Interviewing is a big part of what I do as a media company, not just as a podcaster, but media company. So I was on the phone with somebody from Congress, probably in touch with them for a while, trying to align schedules or who I would talk to. Lo and behold, when I was on the phone, I think I was even on Amtrak or something, leaving DC. They're like, "Hey, Marcus Lemonis of The Prophet, CNBC, he can't speak at the time I was speaking." That's how I recall. I think it was Marcus Lemonis. And they said, "Are you available?" So a few days later, like the next day, 2 days, I was in DC, took a train there, testifying to Congress about small business. That was with Susan Solovic. That was with, I think, J.J. Ramberg and Melinda Emerson, names who are also in this small business space. So it was an honor to be in Congress, be on a committee, no indictment or anything crazy, and just to be in that hallowed ground where we see on TV or C-SPAN or PBS that I can have that claim to fame and say, yeah, I testified to Congress and about small business. You can't get better than that about what I do.
I love it. I love it. I will look for a podcast about that. I'm not going to go watch C-SPAN from 20 years ago, but I will look for the podcast. Hey, by the way, shout out to Evan Spencer. Evan is my research partner, and he helped me write my book. He also helps me with my podcast and a lot of my social media. He also happens to be my nephew, and he is a badass. So, Evan, if you're watching or listening, shout out to you. Don't ask for more money.
Good job, Evan. Good job.
All right. So, hey, Ramon, how can we find out more about you and what you're doing?
Sure, I'd be honored for people to check me out at RamonRay.com, RamonRay, RamonRay.com. Definitely come by and visit us at zoneofgenius.com, zoneofgenius.com. And I know when you give people too many things, they don't make a decision. That's okay. And they can also check us out at celebrityczeo.com. So either URL, we'd be honored to receive your community. And don't forget to get Kurt's book, though. The Offer I Made stands.
Who's Your Mike? Send him a photo of the cover, and he will send you a personal thank you.
That's
right. If you buy two, he will provide 2 thank yous, which is, you can't ask for more than that. Hey, Ramon, on that note, we're going to wrap this puppy up. Thanks for joining me on Unlocking Moves. For everyone out there, please go like and subscribe wherever you consume your podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, YouTube is the video version, and lots more. Ramon, thank you so much for joining me on Unlocking Moves.
Kurt, it's a pleasure to be here. You're an amazing interviewer, and thank you for your time.
Let's go. If you're an entrepreneur and you think you might have outgrown a member of your team, or maybe you've got a mic, as we talked about in Who's Your Mic, check out this quiz at who'syourmic.com/quiz. That's who'syourmic.com/quiz.